Assalamu alaikum everybody. Inshallah you guys are all doing well. I am super excited for today's halaqa. We are going to learn about Abu Dardaa. And he's a really cool guy, and I'm really excited to share his story with you and see what we could learn. So Abu Dardaa was one of the last Ansari men to accept Islam. He was a really strong believer in worshipping idols, and he would do his best to take care of them. He would spray them with perfume, and he would cover them in just this really beautiful silk. And he would make sure that he was doing his best to care for his idols. And one day, while he was walking through the streets of Medina, there was just a lot of crowds, and it was really busy just kind of around the streets. And he realized that it was the return of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ from the Battle of Badr. And when he realized that, he went up and he asked about his friend Abdullah ibn Rawaha. And Abdullah was such a close friend to Abu Dardaa, and he meant a lot to him. But Abdullah had accepted Islam while Abu Dardaa had not, and so that was something that was different about them, but they still managed to be really good friends, and they cared for each other deeply. So when Abu Dardaa was working in his shop one day, Abdullah ibn Rawaha went to his home, and he actually destroyed his idols with an axe. And so he went and just completely demolished everything that was there and then left. And so when Abu Dardaa came home, he found his wife sitting at the door of this room that the idol was in, and she looked so sad and distraught. And he asked her, he goes, "What's wrong?" And she explained to him what happened. And Abu Dardaa was so angry. He was furious. He was like, why would anybody do this? And why would he ruin my beliefs? And why would he come in and do something so awful to me like this? And he decided that he really wanted to get revenge and, make things right in his mind. And after a little bit, after he calmed down and had a little bit of time to just kind of think, he realized that if this idol was something worthy of being worshipped, then why didn't it defend itself against Abdullah? Why didn't it fight back, and why didn't it try and protect itself? And he realized that if what I am worshipping can't even defend itself and protect itself, how is it right for me, and how is it going to protect me and kind of take care of me? And so that day he went to Abdullah and he was like, I realized what you did, and I realized why you did it, and I want to accept Islam as my religion and the religion that I want to follow. And together Abu Dardaa and Abdullah went to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he accepted Islam in that moment. And from that day forward, he devoted his entire life to Islam and learning about Islam and making sure that he was being the best Muslim that he could possibly be. And he really put a lot of time and effort into trying to be the best version of himself that he could be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he actually regretted not accepting Islam earlier, because he realized that he's missed out on so much time that he could have spent learning about Islam. While all of his friends had been learning about Islam for 2 or 3 years, he was those 2 or 3 years behind. And so he would spend day and night researching and trying to gain more knowledge and trying to be the best Muslim that he could possibly be, and worshipping Allah in every way that he could. And he actually memorized the Quran and tried to understand its message so much and implement all of those teachings into his life. And he wanted to be the best Muslim possible, that he actually moved his store closer to the masjid and closer to where the masjid is located, so that way he would never miss any of the prayers in the masjid with the jama'ah. So he really put a lot of effort into making lifestyle changes and making sure that he was being the best Muslim that he could possibly be. And then later on in life, we see that his wisdom was something that people around him really valued, because he was appointed as the governor of Syria. And when he was the governor, he realized that the people living in Syria and Damascus, they were living these really luxurious lives. They had so many things that they didn't really need, and they had all of these extras and things that sure we might want, but they weren't really necessary. And it made him really upset. And he gave a speech actually, and his speech said, "O people of Damascus, you are my brethren in religion, neighbors who live together and helpers of one another against enemies. Is it right that I see your learned ones departing from this world, while the ignorant among you are not learning? I see that you incline towards such things which Allah has made answerable for you, and you abandon that which He has commanded you to do. Is it reasonable that I see you gathering and hoarding what you do not eat, and erecting buildings in which you do not live? People before you have amassed wealth, made great plans and high hopes, but it was not long before what they had amassed was destroyed. Their hopes dashed and their houses turned into graves. Such were the people of Damascus. They filled the earth with possessions and children. Who is there who will purchase from me today the entire legacy for 2 dirhams?" And the people, they were so touched and so moved by the words that he was saying, and people were crying, and they realized that the lives that they were living were so extra and above and beyond what they needed to be living and what they needed to implement into their lives. And from that day forward, Abu Darda made sure that he went to different gatherings among the people and tried to be there to share his wisdom and to kind of explain things to them in ways that they might not have understood before, or things that they wouldn't have even thought of before. Another incident where we see Abu Darda's wisdom really coming into play is when he was walking through the streets of Damascus, and he saw a group of people crowding around this one man, and they were insulting him and they were beating him and they were just treating him very terribly. And Abu Darda asked the people, they go, "What's going on? Why are you doing this?" And the people said, "Oh, this man has committed a great sin and he's just done a very, very bad thing." And so Abu Darda, he was like, "Oh, okay. So if this man fell into a well, would you help him out of this well?" And they said, "Well, yeah, of course, we're gonna get him out." And so Abu Darda said, "Okay, so if you're going to physically help this man get out of a tough place, then why would you not do the same for him spiritually? So in this situation, you need to help this man realize what he's done and understand the consequences of his actions, and then try and help make him a better person." And the people, they said, "Well, don't you hate this man? He's committed a great sin." And Abu Darda said, "I dislike the actions of this man. I dislike the sin that this man has done. However, if this man asks for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he abandons this awful action that he's done, well, then he's my brother." And this man began to just cry and cry and cry for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he, from that day forward, didn't commit that sin again. So another instance where we can see Abu Darda's faith being kind of tested in a way, but him still having certainty in it, was when he was walking through the streets and somebody came up to him and they said, "Oh, Abu Darda, your house is on fire." And Abu Darda said, "No, it's not my house." And this man said, "Yes, it is. Your house and all of these houses among it have been caught in flames and it's burning to the ground." And Abu Darda, he said, "No, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me that if I say these words at the beginning of my day, then nothing will happen during my day. And if I say these words at night, nothing will happen through the night. And so when I say these words all day and night, then my days and nights are protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this man and Abu Darda, they went back to the neighborhood. And when they got there, they saw that all of the houses surrounding Abu Darda's home were burned to the ground, except for his. His house was protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we see that the power of dua and the power of the hadith that the Prophet Muhammad shared with us really are powerful in ways that we couldn't even imagine. You know, when you think of a fire burning down neighborhoods, obviously you would imagine that all of the houses would burn down, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He protects us. And especially when we're asking for His protection, we're asking for His help, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never turn away from us. So some things that we can learn from Abu Darda is that just because you and a close friend might not agree the same way that him and Abdullah didn't agree about religion at the beginning of the story, it's still important for you to do your best to kind of be there for them and give them advice and show that although that you guys might not agree on everything, you're still a good friend to them. And we see that obviously right in this story, we see that Abdullah was there for Abu Darda, and he was constantly caring for him and constantly making dua and wanting Abu Darda to become a Muslim, and it worked. Obviously, we should not go to people's houses and break things and ruin the things that they have in their home, but to be there for them and talk to them and try and understand their point of views and your point of views is really important. And then we see when Abu Darda did accept Islam, he didn't take small little baby steps and he didn't decide, oh, I'm just going to ease myself. He went fully into Islam and he wanted to get as much knowledge as he could, and he wanted to make sure that he was really, really benefiting as much as he could from the knowledge that the Prophet Muhammad had to share, as well as just wanting to learn from the Quran and implementing those things into his life. So a question that I have for you guys is, if you saw a friend of yours committing a sin or doing something that you know that they shouldn't be doing, how do you think you would react? How do you think you would respond? Do you think you would tell them that they were doing something wrong? Do you think you would try and help them ask for forgiveness? Do you think that you would tell an adult? What do you think you would do? There's no right or wrong answer, but I want you guys to think about how you think you would react in that situation, and also maybe put yourself in the shoes of the person committing the sin. What do you want somebody in front of you to do if you did something wrong? Would you want somebody to correct you? Would you want somebody to kind of be there for you and be like, are you okay? What's going on? Let's try and get back on the right track. I know for me personally, if I was doing something wrong, I would want somebody to tell me, because I wouldn't want to do it again. I would want to be the best person that I could possibly be, and I can only do that if I know that I'm doing something wrong and I ask for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I work on being a better person. So that's all that I have for this week, inshallah. I hope you guys learned a little something about Abu Darda and what it means to be a really good Muslim and wanting to gain as much knowledge as possible. And I'll see you guys next week. Assalamu alaikum.